Today, I'm going to be testing out something that's been on my mind for a while and I've wanted to experiment and try it out for myself. And that is whether if pre-ground coffee ground with a grate grinder is better than freshly ground coffee but ground with a cheap grinder, like the one I have right here. This is a $5 grinder. Very generic ceramic burr grinder that I got off of Amazon. We've heard for a long time that it's better to grind fresh, but another important part about grinding is the grind particle distribution, how consistent and uniform the particle size is. So with a cheap grinder, you're not getting a lot of consistency in terms of how uniform the distribution is of the grind particles. You can get very fine particles and very coarse particles all in the same grind, and that's not ideal for extracting the coffee to its full potential. Whereas if you got your coffee pre-ground, you're probably getting it from your roaster or a coffee shop and they're grinding it with a commercial, extremely consistent burr grinder. It is a quality grind that you're getting from those grinders. So that's what I wanted to answer. For somebody who is getting into coffee and they're curious about this and they might not want to grind fresh and go through the act of hand grinding every day, would pre-ground be okay? I'm going to test that out. I want to see how that works out and what tastes better, whether if pre-ground coffee from an amazing grinder that's extremely consistent is better, or if freshly ground coffee with whole beans but with a cheap grinder like this one is better. I tested it out for myself. I was quite surprised by the results. I had pre-ground coffee of this lovely Ethiopian Sidamo, which I got from Sippy Beans. Shout out to Sippy Beans. I'll speak about them in a bit. I got this Ethiopian Sidamo. Then I also ground coffee fresh with this cheap ceramic burr grinder, which you can literally find off of Amazon, Alibaba, AliExpress, any online store. It's a very easy grinder to find, very generic. So I set up that test. I went with 15 grams of coffee for 250 grams of water. Water temperature was around 91, 92 degrees Celsius. First, I ground the coffee fresh. And one thing I must say, the grinding experience with this grinder was not very pleasant. It took quite a long time, probably more than a minute and a half, 2 minutes. So ground the coffee, and right off the bat, I could notice a big difference in the grind quality. How inconsistent it was, because I noticed a lot of boulders and a lot of fine particles as well. And I made sure to go as fine as I could, but not too fine, enough for a V60, but there was no consistency in the grind distribution. I saw a lot of boulders, a lot of finer pieces. It was all over the place. But anyways, brewed the coffee. What I noticed was the drawdown time was a lot longer. Probably because there was a lot of fines in the grind as well, which kind of slowed it down. But yeah, I could also tell after brewing, there was a lot of boulders just attached to the side of the V60 cone filter paper. So I made that, let it to rest and cool down. In the meantime, I made the coffee with the pre-ground coffee. Same method, same pour, same everything. But one thing was that the bloom for the pre-ground coffee was much flatter. Just as a visual cue, that also put me off. And of course, because if you have pre-ground coffee, the aroma is going to dissipate and that is going to lead to a loss of flavor. So I brewed that up, and then came time to taste. I let the coffees cool down. They came around to the same temperature. I was really surprised by just how clear the pre-ground coffee tasted. It was balanced, surprisingly. There was still a lot of flavor there. I was expecting it. I came in with my own assumption. I thought it would be stale. I thought it would taste flat. And it was not like that at all. It tasted pretty good. I could taste some of the tasting notes much clearer. It was balanced. It was clear. It was clean. Now, coming on to the coffee made with the cheap grinder, it was slightly astringent. It had a bit more strength, if that makes sense. The body was a bit heavier, and I'm guessing that's because of the fines. It wasn't as clear as the pre-ground coffee. I was tasting much more overwhelming amount of zestiness, and yeah, there was a very slight astringency, and it hit as soon as you took a sip. Going back and forth, I really could not tell if the pre-ground was actually pre-ground. It tasted like fresh coffee to me. This experiment in no way, shape, or form was a very dynamic or in-depth look. There's so many factors that go into deciding whether you should just buy a cheap grinder or get pre-ground. I just did a pour over. It also depends on whether you're grinding for espresso, in which case you should definitely not get a cheap grinder, or if you're grinding for immersion brew, like a French press or an AeroPress, in which case you have a greater margin for error since immersion brewing is quite different from percolation. Yeah, there's so many other factors that play into this. One of the things about pre-ground coffee is like this was resting for about 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks. Now, once that I've opened the bag of the pre-ground coffee, the aroma is going to dissipate a lot faster. And once that happens, coffee is going to get stale and its flavor is going to decline quite a lot. That's another thing to keep in mind. Whereas with whole beans, sorry about that. With whole beans, the aroma, the oils of the coffee, they're all preserved in whole bean form, and you are going to have a flavor and taste that lasts much longer, and the aroma doesn't dissipate as fast as the surface area isn't exposed of the coffee, since it's not pre-ground. I hope I'm not just babbling, blabbering on, and this makes sense. This was a very interesting experiment. I was really surprised that pre-ground coffee can taste pretty good. I think if you're someone who is new to specialty coffee, new to brewing at home, I would say, sure, get a cheap grinder, but try pre-ground as well. See how this works for you. And now let me talk about the people who I am collaborating with for this video, and that is Sippy Beans. I reached out to the Sippy Beans gang when I wanted to make this video because they're all about experimenting, they're all about testing out things for yourself and brewing better coffee at home. So I said, hey, I want to do this, can you help me out? And they said, yes, we'd love to. And they sent over this beautiful coffee from Cafe Rider. So Sippy Beans is an online digital platform which does not only have some of the best roasters in the UAE as well as international roasters. They also have amazing content on their website having to do with how you can brew better coffee at home, what goes behind specialty coffee, the intricacies of specialty coffee culture, and so much more. And Sippy Beans really is a hub and a one-stop shop for everything specialty coffee. If you are somewhere in the UAE, KSA, the US, or the UK even, you can shop from their wide selection of amazing specialty coffees, equipment as well. They really are taking care of everything, and it's their whole ethos and their mission to provide you, the home brewer or the enthusiast or the beginner even, to get into making great coffee at home and learning more about specialty coffee. So check out Sippy Beans at sippybeans.com, and if you want to buy something, you can use my code ZARAK10 at checkout. You get a 10% off, so that's fantastic. Who doesn't want a 10% discount? Just go buy beans. As far as recommendations go, I would highly recommend you try something from Archers. They're a fantastic roastery in Sharjah. They have amazing coffees, very, very interesting. It's just great. Archers is great. So is Cafe Rider. And this Ethiopian Sidamo is just such a simple, basic, amazing coffee. So try this out as well if you can. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you took away something from this and this helped and it was educational. And yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you. So go ahead, subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if you liked the video. Don't like it if you didn't like it. That's fine. Share it with your mom, dad, sisters, brothers, the whole gang. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.